Last Bastion then, Beth.
So yeah, Last Bastion is a new game that's coming out from Antoine Bauza and Productions, and this is a new take on a classic cooperative game called Ghost Stories. Now, Ghost Stories was a game where you took on the role of Taoist monks who were holding off sort of ghosts and zombies and all sorts of weird things that were attacking a village in sort of Chinese mythology. In this game, they've sort of changed things up and turned it into a medieval fantasy game where you're going to be playing as a range of heroes, which has expanded from 4 up to, I believe it's like 8 or 9 now, each with their own different variable powers, and you'll be doing pretty much the same thing, defending a castle against the forces of evil that are trying to assail it, because you've gone out and stolen one of these mighty artifacts from this dark sorceress who is now sort of bringing all of these different fantasy races together in order to try and bring you down. This game has seen quite an upgrade compared to the original Ghost Stories, which is pretty interesting. So you've got a whole bunch of new, much better quality plastic miniatures in the box. All of the artwork has been taken up another level and all that kind of thing as well. They've added in a lot more customization. They've made it a little easier as well in parts. But there's also a couple of different hardcore modes in there at the same time. And so the general quality of it is just looking a lot better. The thing that's interesting to me, though, is that I really, really like the fact that Ghost Stories, so the previous version of this game, was set in an entirely different mythology in sort of that Chinese sort of Asian sphere. And now we're going to a sort of more standard medieval fantasy thing. But obviously that will sell a lot more board games, I would assume. But it's just a bit different, a bit interesting to see that they've gone for this sort of more generic fantasy setting compared to the one that they had before.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen that sort of evolved on potentially.
That's actually something we touched on a bit during Pointless Views this week.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, you were talking about Celtic mythology and stuff, and about you're sort of we're not going to into it. If you want to watch the Pointless Views, go ahead and do it
on the main website OnTableTop.com if you want to go and check it out.
But we did touch on that point where Ben sort of mentioned where we've changed it to more medieval, thinking it'll be a wider appeal and stuff like that.
Yeah, this will probably be an easier sell for folks.
Yeah, even the fact that it was Chinese Oriental rather than the sort of standard feudal Japan that you see an awful lot, made it more interesting because they're avenues that are rarely explored.
Has the game changed then, or is it just like a reskin of the game? Or
as I was saying, they've changed a few things here and there. So a lot of the player powers that existed before in the original game have been sort of extrapolated out. So now because they've got a lot more different characters, they've split up some of the powers that were basically flips of one particular color player into sort of expanding it out to suit the elf more or suit the dwarf more, for example. They've also done some extra bits and pieces here when it comes to the monsters, so they've made them fight a little differently, and they've made the way that each of the tiles gets, it was in the old game it was haunted, so tiles would flip over. In this one they get sort of like corrupted, and they've got little tokens and stuff for that, but that sort of corruption can spread to your character boards as well as just the locations on there as well. They've made it a little bit easier as well, so they've toned down the amount of enemies that you fight as well. So I guess they're looking at maybe seeing this as a bit more of a broad sell for people. And one of the cool things about it, obviously, as a game system as a whole, is that it also has solo play in it as well, which is pretty awesome. So yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah. I will say it does look very cool. It's just a bit of a shame that they had to change the aesthetic for me, but that's just
no more hopping vampires.
But you can still play
no
the
more
original.
hopping vampires. I can still play the original, and I have it, and I will definitely be playing more of it. And it's a very, very, very good game.
Does it
also
play quickly?
Incredibly challenging. The original game plays in about, I'd say, 60 minutes. This one plays in 45 minutes.
It's 1 to 4 players, 14 plus.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that it plays faster, but, if you have the original, Ben, you should bring it over next time, because it doesn't look like it would be that big a deal to stick it in your pack and just bring it with you.
No, and it's really good fun. I think you guys would really enjoy it. So, yeah.
Cool. Definitely going to give that a shot.